Welcome back to Stay Quarter. Today we are talking about one of the most talked about pennies in American coin collecting history. So unique, so different, and so misunderstood that collectors still debate its story and value to this day. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because on this channel we break down real coins, real values, and real opportunities that could be sitting right in your pocket or collection without you even realizing it. Now let's get started with a penny that stands out from everything else. The one that collectors often say was changed or replaced after just 1 year. We're talking about a coin that marks a turning point in U.S. coin design, a first-year issue that didn't last long, and today is one of the most important coins you can find if you know what to look for. I'm talking about the 1859 Indian head cent, the very first year this design ever appeared, and the only one that came without the shield on the reverse. And here's where things get really interesting. In 1859, this coin was released with a simple laurel wreath on the back, clean, elegant, but missing something that would soon become standard. Just 1 year later, in 1860, the design was completely changed. The U.S. Mint added a shield to the reverse, and from that point forward, every Indian head cent carried that updated look. That means the 1859 version instantly became a 1 year only design. No shield, no second chance. Just 1 year and done. And when something like that happens in coin collecting, it creates serious attention. Because collectors don't just want a coin, they want the first version, the original design, the one that started it all before it was changed forever. Now let's clear something up in a smart way. There's a lot of talk out there, especially among collectors, that this first year design didn't last because it wasn't ideal for circulation or production. While it wasn't officially banned in the dramatic sense people sometimes say, the fact is, it was replaced immediately after 1 year. And in the coin world, that kind of sudden design change creates a powerful story, and stories like that drive demand. This coin is also made from a unique metal mix, 88% copper and 12% nickel, which gives it that slightly pale, almost off-white tone compared to later Indian head cents. It's heavier, tougher, and has a very distinct look once you know what to watch for. And because it was the first year, many of these coins went straight into heavy circulation. People didn't save them, they used them. That's why finding a really sharp example today is not easy. When you look at one, pay close attention to the details in the headdress and the wreath. On worn coins, those details are usually flattened out. In lower grades, you're still looking at around $15 to $40, sometimes more if the coin has decent eye appeal. Move up into better condition, fine or very fine, and now you're talking about $50 to $120. That's where collectors start paying more attention. But here's where things start heating up. In extremely fine condition, with strong detail in the feathers and wreath, values can jump to $150, $250, even $300. And in about uncirculated, where the coin barely shows wear, you're now entering the $400, $800 range, sometimes even higher depending on color and surface quality. Now let's step into the serious collector zone. Mint state examples, coins that were never circulated are where this coin really starts to shine. MS-63 examples can easily reach $1,000 or more. MS-64, you're pushing into the $2,000 to $3,500 range. And when you get into gem quality coins, especially those with original red color, the competition becomes intense. Because here's the truth. Most people don't realize finding a fully original bright red 1859 Indian head cent is incredibly difficult. Most have toned brown over time. So when a true red example shows up, collectors go after it hard. And this is exactly why this coin has such strong long-term potential. It's the first year. It has a 1 year only reverse design. It was quickly replaced. And high-quality examples are genuinely scarce. That combination creates demand, and demand is everything in this market. Now let's talk about the part that should really get your attention. Top-tier examples, high-grade, fully red coins in the MS-65 to MS-66 range have sold for over $200,000. Plus at major auctions, that's not hype, that's real market performance. And every time one of these elite coins appears, it reminds collectors just how special this issue really is. So here's the bottom line. The 1859 Indian head cent isn't just another old penny. It's the first of its kind, the only one without the shield, and a coin tied to a design change that happened immediately after its release. That kind of story creates momentum, and momentum creates value. If you ever come across one, especially in strong condition, don't ignore it. Hold on to it, protect it. because coins like this with unique designs and one-year status tend to gain more attention over time. And as more collectors realize what makes this coin different, the demand could climb even higher. This is the kind of coin people wish they had saved years ago. Don't be the one who lets it slip away. Now let's jump to the second coin, and this one tells a completely different story, born out of necessity during a major turning point in American history. It represents a shift in how coins were made and used. Next up. Stop scrolling for a second, because this tiny coin from 1901 might be sitting in your collection right now, quietly holding more value and collector interest than you realize. The 1901 Indian head cent isn't just another old penny. It's part of one of the most iconic coin series in American history, and this particular year has its own story, its own demand, and its own hidden value potential that serious collectors pay attention to. The front of the coin features the classic Indian head design created by James B. Longacre, with Liberty wearing a Native American headdress. It's bold, detailed, and instantly recognizable. By 1901, this design had already been in circulation for decades, which means millions of Americans had used coins just like this in everyday life, buying groceries, paying for services, and handling daily transactions. But here's the key. Even though it had a relatively high mintage compared to earlier years, not many of these coins. On the reverse, you'll see the familiar oak wreath with a small shield at the top surrounding the words 1 cent. This design had been used since 1860, but by 1901 it was still the same core look collectors know and love. However, what matters most today is not just the design, it's how well that design has survived over time. The 1901 Indian head cent was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, so there is no mint mark on the coin. The total mintage was over 79 million coins, which sounds large, but don't let that fool you. Most of these coins were heavily circulated, and high-grade examples are far less common than people expect. That's exactly where the opportunity lies. When you find one of these coins, the first thing to look at is the condition. In lower circulated grades like good or very good, the coin will show heavy wear. The details in the feathers may be flat, and parts of the design may be weak. In this condition, the coin usually sells in the range of about $2 to $10. It's still collectible, but not rare at this level. As you move into fine and very fine condition, more detail becomes visible. The headdress feathers start to show separation, and the wreath becomes more defined. At this stage, values typically range from about $10 to $25. These are the types of coins many beginner collectors start with, building their sets piece by piece. Now here's where things start to get more exciting. In extremely fine condition, where the coin shows only light wear and strong detail, values can climb into the $25 to $60 range. These coins are much more appealing visually, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for that extra sharpness. Once you reach about uncirculated, you're looking at coins that are very close to mint state but may have just the slightest touch of wear on the highest points. These can range from $75 to $150 or more, depending on eye appeal, color, and overall quality. Now let's talk about mint state, the level where coins truly stand out. A 1901 Indian head cent in uncirculated condition with no wear at all can start around $150 to $300 in lower mint state grades like MS60 to MS. But as you move up to MS63 and MS64, prices can jump to $400, $800, or even higher. At MS65 and above, you're entering the premium tier where collectors actively compete for the best examples. Color plays a huge role here. Brown coins are the most common and generally the least valuable. Red-brown coins show a mix of original mint color and natural toning, and they are more desirable. But the real prize is a fully red example. These coins retain their original bright copper color from when they were minted. For a coin over a century old, that's extremely rare. Another important factor is strike quality. Some 1901 cents were struck a bit weakly, especially in the feather details. A sharply struck example with strong detail can significantly increase the value compared to a weaker one in the same grade. Eye appeal matters a lot in this market. Now here's where things really come together. The 1901 Indian head cent is not just about rarity, it's about condition rarity. There are plenty of coins out there, but very few that look truly exceptional. That's why top-tier examples consistently perform well in the collector market. And when we talk about elite-level coins, the numbers become impressive. High grade, fully red examples in MS66 condition have sold at auction for several $1,000s, often reaching into the $30,000 to $50,000 plus range. That's a massive jump from the typical circulated examples, and it shows just how much condition can transform value. This coin is a perfect example of how everyday change can turn into something extraordinary. It may have been common over 100 years ago, but today, the right example can command serious attention from collectors across the country. And as more people start paying attention to Indian head cents, coins like the 1901 issue continue to gain recognition and demand. So if you ever come across a 1901 Indian head cent, take a closer look. Don't rush past it. Check the details, study the color, and evaluate the condition carefully. Because while many of these coins are still affordable today, the highest quality examples are already showing strong collector interest, and that's exactly how values begin to rise over time. And finally, we land on the third coin, the one that surprises most people because it might already be sitting in your collection right now, quietly holding value that could seriously change everything you thought you knew about everyday change. Next up, imagine finding a penny in your change that isn't copper at all, but steel. Not just any steel penny, but one from a single year in American history that collectors around the world instantly recognize. Today we're talking about the 1943 Lincoln steel cent, one of the most famous and misunderstood coins ever struck by the United States Mint, and one that continues to spark excitement every single time it shows up in a collection. The first thing you'll notice is the color. Instead of the usual warm copper tone, this coin has a silvery, almost gray appearance. That's because in 1943, the United States made a major wartime decision. Copper was needed for World War II equipment, especially for ammunition and military supplies. So the Mint switched to using zinc-coated steel for pennies that year. This wasn't just a small change. It was a temporary but historic shift that created one of the most unique coins in American numismatics. On the front, you still see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. The details are the same classic design collectors know, but the metal itself completely changes how the coin looks and feels. On the reverse, you'll see the wheat ears design, which was used from 1909 to 1958. But again, the steel composition gives it a completely different appearance compared to traditional copper cents. Now here's something important to understand. This coin was minted in massive quantities. Millions and millions were produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, so in general, the 1943 steel cent is not rare in terms of mintage. However, that does not mean it lacks value. In fact, the real value comes down to condition, preservation, and, in some cases, errors. Most of these coins were heavily circulated, and because steel rusts and corrodes more easily than copper, many examples didn't survive in great shape. If you find one with heavy wear, it might only be worth around 10 to 25 cents. In circulated but decent condition, you might see values around 25 cents to $1, sometimes a bit more if the coin has strong detail. But here's where things start to get interesting. In uncirculated condition, especially with full detail and strong luster, values can rise to $5, $10, $20, or even higher depending on the grade and eye appeal. Coins graded MS65 and above can command much stronger prices, especially if they have clean surfaces and attractive shine dowel. Now let's talk about mint marks. The 1943 steel cent comes from three mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D; and San Francisco, with an S. The San Francisco coins are often a bit more desirable because they can be slightly harder to find in higher grades, especially with strong strike quality, but the real excitement in this coin lies in errors. One of the most famous and valuable errors in all of U.S. coinage is the 1943 copper cent. While most pennies that year were made of steel, a few were mistakenly struck on leftover copper planchettes from 1942. These are extremely rare, and they can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Authentic 1943 copper cents have sold for astonishing prices at auction, often reaching into the hundreds of thousands and in some cases approaching or exceeding $1 million depending on condition and certification. These are the coins that collectors dream about finding, and the reason they are so valuable is simple. They were never supposed to exist. Another type of error to look out for is the 1943 steel cent struck on a copper-colored planchette or with plating issues. While not as valuable as the true copper error, these varieties can still carry significant premiums if properly authenticated. Now let's talk about preservation, because this coin is especially sensitive to its environment. Since it's made of steel, it can rust if exposed to moisture. That means coins that have been well preserved, with minimal corrosion or spotting, are much more desirable. Clean, bright, original coins are always worth more than those with corrosion or damage. From an investment perspective, the 1943 steel cent is one of the most accessible entry points into coin collecting. Almost everyone has seen one before, and many people still find them in old collections, coin jars, or inherited sets. But at the same time, it's also a coin that connects deeply to American history, a direct link to World War II and the sacrifices made during that time. That combination of accessibility, history, and potential for high-value errors makes this coin incredibly special. It's a coin that beginners can appreciate, but also one that advanced collectors continue to study and chase in top condition and rare varieties. So here's the takeaway. Don't overlook this coin just because it's common. The 1943 steel cent tells a powerful story, and while most examples are modest in value, the right coin in the right condition, or the right rare error, can change everything. Always take a closer look, check the details, and never assume a coin is just ordinary. Because in the world of coin collecting, the most surprising treasures are often the ones that look the most familiar. Thanks for watching, and happy collecting.